Welcome to another foreclosure clarity moment. I'm going to talk about fast track foreclosures. That was my experience. This experience gave me a little bit more insight on how this process works. I personally believe that mine was fast track because of the way that I was responding to not only the alleged lender, but also to the lawyer, law office / debt collector. But I also believe the other reason they were fast tracking my foreclosure was because of the time dilemma. So after I got the slew of loan modification documents, the next thing I started to receive was correspondence from the debt collector / attorney. And in the correspondence from the debt collector / attorney, the letters stated that they were a debt collector. This was an attempt to collect the debt. You know, that standard verbiage, it definitely indicated them as a debt collector. But also in their correspondence, they represented themselves as counsel for the alleged lender. Now, one thing that I noticed is that I did not receive any other correspondence from the alleged lender. Once I started to get letters from the debt collector / attorney, there was no other correspondence from the alleged lender. It was strictly correspondence from the attorney / law office / debt collector. So in my fashion, I responded to each correspondence. I advised them of my position, what I had done previously, because the alleged lender had already gotten documentation that they ignored. And being honest, that's something that I was naive about. That's one thing in hindsight that I realized I was extremely naive in believing that if I send notices, if I request information, that they will act in honor and at least respond or provide said information. I was wrong. They ignore. But what matters is that I kept records. I did not allow their correspondence to go unanswered. So I continued to send notices. I continued to send correspondence to them, as well as sending correspondence to the alleged lender. And I kept my records, okay? So that was my experience as they started to fast track foreclosure. Now, initially, I didn't realize how much they were mashing the gas, right? It took almost up until the end for me to realize, like, wow, they're really not going to respond. They're really going to ignore me. So, like I said, I never stopped responding to their notices. I continued my own documentation journey. One of the things that I did, I mentioned this before, is I accepted my deed on my property. Even though I knew they were attempting to foreclose, I still accepted my deed. And this is another reason why I believe it's all entities cooperating with each other. I believe that when certain things are done on the record, they get notified, right? Whether they're checking, whatever is happening, they're being notified when things are being done on the record. I made several attempts to accept my deed, and I was given pushback multiple times. But one thing that you have to do is remain calm and as professional as possible. Even though you can tell they might be jerking you around, remain calm, remain as professional as possible when you're dealing with the county recorder. So that is what I made every attempt to do. After several times of getting pushback, even though they were telling me, well, just do this and just do that, then I would go back and they would say, well, oh, no, we need this. So I think the last time before they accepted the deed, I was frustrated and they could see that. And I said, look, I've been down here multiple times to do this. And I've asked, what do you require? Every time that I make the adjustment on my document, you're pushing me back. Now, this is before I knew that they would just accept random things being recorded on my property record. Okay. So I stood there and said, what do you need to get this recorded? Because at this point, it seems something's not right. Every time that I come here, you're pushing back. So they saw that I was not going to back down. And that's why I say you have to be persistent. You have to stand on your square. So they ended up breaking down, this is what we need, this is what we need, this is what we need, and we put it on the record. So I made the final adjustment, and I took it back, and they recorded my document. What I found out later is about a month after I did that, the attorney's office debt collector actually recorded another document on the record, which was preparing them to ramp up for foreclosure, for the so-called foreclosure auction. So I'm going to end this one here. That's it for another foreclosure clarity moment.